enough to find the Mariology of the text. For example, in a text, a specific text, you will need to find the Marian section because all the texts will never talk about Mary. As I said, the Gospels are not talking about Mary, but about Jesus. But Mary is there because she is the mother of Jesus. So we have to find the Marian text, section of the text, and ask ourselves, why is Mary there? If the author intended to talk about her, what is the author wanted to mean? And what does the text say about Mary? Here we have to be careful. What the text says about Mary is not necessarily what the author wanted to say about Mary. So now I'm giving you an example of the picture because when you take a picture, if I take a picture of you, for example, my intention is to take your picture. But in this picture, maybe you had your computer or something like that, something interesting, and that appears on that picture. Even though my intention was to take your picture, I may be interested more in your computer than yourself. That's what happens in the Marian text. So St. Luke may talk about the Annunciation, intending to talk about the birth of Jesus, but I may be interested more about Mary in that text than Jesus. It doesn't mean St. Luke wanted to talk about Mary, but I found something on Mary in this text. So this is the most important things I wanted to say before we share our text. The first text I want to talk about, I don't know how much time we have, but the oldest Marian text is in Galatians, the text of St. Paul. So if we read that text, according to the scholars, we read that text, there is nothing about Mary explicitly. We don't see the name of Mary here. Yet scholars say it's a Marian text. Why is it a Marian text? So we will see St. Paul talking about a woman giving birth to the Redeemer. So if you have time and you read the whole chapter 4 of Galatians, you will see that he wasn't talking about Mary. His intention was not to talk about Mary. So he was talking to the community of Galatians because they were in a critical moment of their church. The faith was increasing, and when the faith is increasing and the number of Christians are increasing, there are always some difficulties to be solved about faith itself. So one of the problems was syncretism. Which gospels were the true gospels and which ones were the false gospels? So that was the message of St. Paul. Yet, this is to tell you St. Paul was not talking about Mary. Yet we found something about Mary in this text. So one of the scholars who found something in that text was Albert Vanier, a Jesuit scholar, who said, since she said the Son of God was born from a woman, so that woman is the mother of God. So without mentioning Mary, but we know the mother of Jesus is Mary. So from a text that is not mentioning even Mary, we can see the dogma of the Theotokos. It means she is the mother of God. That woman refers to Mary implicitly, not explicitly. Another scholar called Cyril of Jerusalem found the virginity, the dogma of the virginity in that text. See that St. Paul didn't mean to talk about these dogmas. He didn't mean to talk about the Theotokos. He didn't mean to talk about the virginity of Mary. Yet in that text, we found these two dogmas. So we made what we call a Marian reading of the text of St. Paul. And then we have another scholar called Theodoros who finds the mystery of the incarnation. Wherever we talk about the mystery of the incarnation, we see Mary because she is the co-redemptress. The mystery of the incarnation was made possible through her see, her what we call fiat, her yes to God. So we can go further to make some other reflections in this text. See, in only that verset, that short verset, that even does not mention the name of Mary, we found many dogmas on Mary. And also, we found another theological reflection, her co-redemption. She is there to participate, to collaborate in the mystery of the incarnation. So, associated to the mystery of the incarnation, she is the co-redemptress. And we can see that in Philippians also. This also is a Marian text. We want to talk about it, but it's one of the texts that do not mention Mary, but yet are Marian texts. Now in St. Matthew, in the Gospels also, we have other Marian texts. We will choose only one, what we call the Annunciation to Joseph. So we all know that text, the angel revealing the origin of Jesus to Joseph, her stepfather, to know her adoptive father, to know that his conception is coming from the Holy Spirit. So now also, even though Mary is mentioned here, St. Matthew didn't mean to talk directly, explicitly about Mary, but his message is also Christocentric, meaning that he wanted simply to show the divinity of Jesus. Jesus comes from the Holy Spirit. Yet, by saying that, he's informing us about Mary also. And in this text also, we can find some Marian thoughts, a Marian insights. So here, for example, we can see what we call the virginal conception, even though the main message was not the virginal conception. So Matthew talked about that to show the divinity of Jesus. So we can talk about many other Marian texts in Matthew, but as I said, we have to make some selections. We can't talk about all the texts. In St. Mark, I chose a very simple text also. Most of us must be familiar with this text, talking about the brothers of Jesus and all the polemics about this text. So I chose it because it's one of the most important polemics when we talk about Mary in Mariology in St. Mark and in the Gospels generally. So depending on the culture you are, for example, when I read the books and articles, all the authors discussing about that theme, you will rarely see an African or someone from the Middle East or even South America. Most of the authors will be Europeans or North Americans. Why? Because your concept of brotherhood is reduced to the biological brotherhood. In all the other cultures, a brother is not necessarily a biologic brother. And it's easier for these people to understand what the text is talking about when talking about the brothers of Jesus. So what I want you to know here is that the concept of brotherhood is wider than a biological brother. So here, brother may mean simply a fellow countryman or national neighbor, particularly in African countries, in the Middle East, India. Motherhood also is not necessarily biological. So any mature woman that can have the qualities of education, nutrition, or something like that can be called a mother. So this is to tell you, if we don't have that concept, that wide concept of brotherhood, we can't understand what St. Mark meant here. And when we understand that also, we will understand also that Mary is not excluded from that new concept of brotherhood or motherhood. The problem in this text is some people are asking themselves if it's not a rejection of Mary by Jesus, by saying, who are my brothers and who are my sisters. But if you understand that concept, that broad concept of brotherhood, you can understand that she's included. So Jesus here is, we can say, inaugurating a new concept of family, a new concept of brotherhood and sisterhood. So the faithfulness to God is that new concept of motherhood, brotherhood, which included Mary first. So you can see a parallel of that also in St. Luke, just to let you know. And then the motherhood is more than a physical maternity, but a new family. So that text shows also that she is the mother of Jesus, not only biologically, but through faith. Through faith. And Jesus is not dispraising Mary by saying, who are my mother, who are my brothers, my sisters. On the contrary, he's praising her faith because she is his mother first by faith. So in this text, we are describing a new concept of family, and in that family, Mary is a model. Why? Because that family is based or founded on faith, and Mary is that model of faith. Here again in St. Luke, you will find so many Marian texts. And when I say Marian text, as I said, it doesn't mean we see the name of Mary necessarily in the text, but the text is saying something about Mary. So the Marian texts of St. Luke are very long. We want to read them. We don't have time for that, but let's just see some insights. We are all familiar to the text of St. Luke. For example, Annunciation, Visitation, the Canticle of Mary. Everybody knows all these texts. So what are the Marian insights of these texts? This is something easy also. The faith of Mary is mentioned. The miraculous birth of Jesus is mentioned. So that is also the virginity of Mary. The perpetual virginity of Mary is found there also. Election, this is something interesting also. In the history of the salvation, that concept of election is always an election for a specific mission, and Mary is part of that, these elected people for specific missions, specific cooperations in the mystery of the salvation, and that's why she is called co-redemptrix. So the foundation of all these concepts are in St. Luke. So just to tell you, our devotions, all our devotions, our celebrations, our Marian texts have some foundations in the Bible. Otherwise, it's not Catholic. As we said, also, she's a model of faith because of her consent. The symbol of the ark, because she's the mother of God. The Theotokos is there also. The virginity is there. So there are many Marian insights. We also know Saint Luke is the author of the Acts of the Apostles, and in that first chapter we see Mary in prayer also. She is a woman of faith and prayer. So here I went very quickly because Saint Luke does have a lot of Marian texts. We can't talk about all of them. And then Saint John. Here again, I just selected some of them. So I chose the prologue because this is a bit difficult. It's like the text of Saint Paul, Galatian, in Galatian. There is no explicit name of Mary in that text, yet we say it's a Marian text. Why? Because it's talking about the mystery of the Incarnation. So wherever we talk about the mystery of the Incarnation, we must see Mary there, because the mystery of Incarnation was made possible through Mary, through her yes to God. So if you are interested in more explicit studies on these texts, so I can give you some tips also. But here, I don't want to go further than that. In this prologue that does not even mention Mary, we can see, for example, the dogma of the Theotokos. So the mystery of the Incarnation means Mary is the mother of Jesus. And then we have also the co-redemptrix. She is also associated directly in the mystery of the salvation, because the Incarnation was made possible through Mary. And another thing more difficult here is the assumption of the virginal conception also. So without flesh, without any human willing. So this is to say the mystery of the Incarnation is a mystery coming from God himself. So here we can say that this is the parallel of St. John to the Annunciation, and the Annunciation to Mary and to Joseph, showing that Jesus, the divine nature of Jesus is not only a human being, but he is the Son of God also. We also know through the scholars also that the book of the Revelation is from St. John. So I want to say quickly something about that book. We know the famous text of St. John about the Revelation. So this is a particular, what we call literary genre. He's using metaphors, using images to say something, but scholars who know the history of the church can interpret that for us. And here I will say also the most important things. When you read that text, the first thing you want to understand are the symbols. And there are different ways to interpret these symbols. There are historical ones. And the most important protagonists in this text we know are the woman, the dragon, and the stars. And in the historical interpretation, the woman is the symbol of Zion, people elected. the 12 stars, the tribes, or the apostles, and the dragon is anything against Christianity. So it may be a persecutor like the emperors, evildoers, and the child is the Christians. So this is an assumption possible. Then we have the Marian assumptions also. There, the woman is Mary, and the torments Mary under the foot of the cross, or the prophecy of Simeon that we know in St. Luke. The son is Jesus, and the 12 can be the apostles also. And then we have what we call ecclesiological interpretation. Here we say Mary or the church. So the woman is Mary or the church. The son is Jesus or Christians, all of us. And the torments are Mary giving birth to Christians. The church giving birth to Christians. So now, Pope Benedict said something interesting about that text also, and I want to add it. So he's saying there is only one way to interpret a text. So interpreting a text doesn't mean you have to make a selection, say it's A or B or C, but all the interpretations can be complementary. And he said, in that text we can say Israel. The woman is Israel. We can say that it's not wrong. We can say it's the church also, and it's not wrong also. And now, what he says, and I found interesting, is that we can keep all the three interpretations and see how they are complementary. It means one interpretation can enrich the other. So the symbolism, that was the use of the symbols is important and also benefic. So in conclusion, he said, can Mary be all these things? Yes, she can be Israel, she can be the church, and she can be a person as Mary herself in that text and in that specific text. And by saying that, I want to conclude here, but drawing your attention to something. Something interesting to see in the Bible is that you see the first book of the Bible is Genesis. In Genesis, we see something about a woman who is Eve. Eve is a prefiguration of Mary. And the last book of the Bible is the Revelation. And in 12, we see a woman also. None of these texts are talking about Mary explicitly, but through typology, a kind of biblical study, we can see Mary in Genesis. And through modern interpretations also, exegesis, we can see Mary in the Revelation. So scholars say there is something called inclusion. When you begin with a specific theme and conclude with the same theme, here it's Mary. We see Mary, prefiguration of Eve, Eve, prefiguration of Mary, and then we see Mary here, symbol of the woman. So she's at the beginning of the Bible and at the end of the Bible, which means she is in the center of the mystery of the salvation, which means we can't separate her from Jesus, and we can't separate her from the mystery of the redemption. So thank you. That's all I have to share with you. Okay, thank you very much.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Father Sylvester.
Thank you.
I know you're so passionate about this. You know, he's my professor, so I know. Yeah, taught me for 4 years. I know that. So, we thank you very much. We will call him back another time. Get another version of Mary. The chili cooking is there. Don't go to the back and take some chili. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's precisely the time I came.